So we're growing your ability to be a great coach. You're just getting started in the process, but you are growing towards becoming a great coach. The journey is very long term. It takes a lot of effort to go from just starting out to getting your associate certified credential, professional certified credential, then master certified credential, then whatever goal you have in your journey from there. Throughout this process, though, the best way to grow towards those long-term goals is to be practicing in an environment where you are being provided feedback, an objective, data-driven feedback. You're trained and able to self-assess, and you are being assessed by others in the field who are qualified. This is one of the things that is a sticking point for me with other coaches. I wholeheartedly disagree when coaches say that they do not believe in being assessed, that it makes them nervous to have someone else listening to them. Therefore, they won't be assessed. They won't be provided feedback, because there's no way to truly grow as a coach without being partnering with someone who can provide observations, feedback. Not that, it is a nervous place to be when you know someone's listening or going to listen to a recording. However, we want to grow the ability to coach when we're nervous. It's not about how we feel. It's not about if we feel like getting on stage and performing. When the other person needs us and it's scheduled, we need to be able to show up and perform even if we're a bit nervous. So with that in mind, the ability to practice towards better coaching is really critical. In the beginning of this training program, there are some really basic measures of success that an observer is going to be looking for in a coaching session. How many of the questions were open-ended versus closed-ended? How many of the questions were explorative versus just informational or interviewing? Going beyond those kind of elementary starting points of measuring success, there are three really great exercises the coach can begin to engage in. And it's going to take into account what we've been practicing so far in this training program. First off is the idea of taking that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully that didn't come up too loud on the mic. But the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That idea of pausing as a rhythm. As you start as a coach, you want to be able to hit a measure of success of 1 to 3 seconds of pause after a client is done speaking. And then you grow towards 4 to 6 seconds as a normal pause. And then the ability to go up to 7 to 10 seconds or more as just a natural pause that would show up multiple times in a deep session. This is not something that's going to happen overnight, because there's a lot of factors at play. The coach needs to demonstrate confidence and comfort in the pause. So I don't want coaches early in the field, I wouldn't encourage them to shoot for the 7 seconds of silence until they know when that's a great fit and how to hold themselves in that moment. However, when you are being provided feedback, providing others feedback, self-assessing or asking someone to assess you, see which category your pauses are falling into the majority of the time. 1 to 3 seconds or less than 1 second, 1 to 3 seconds, 4 to 6 seconds, or 7 or more. And that's a wonderful way in a data-driven way, to measure your comfort level with active listening. The next one is your word count. As you look at all of the questions and inputs, and it can be questions or direct communication, observations, comments, thoughts, feelings, sometimes suggestions. Those things should have a word limit overall. It might start out like 15 words or more is maybe a starting point, shooting for less than 20, we could say. But then we want to draw that down to a nice, comfortable 8 to 15 words as really fairly standard. We want to at least hit that as we grow as coaches. And then we want to measure how many questions are falling to 1 to 7 words. One word being like, why? Or taking a word that the client has just said and having that question mark inflection on it. So 1 to 7 word questions can be extremely impactful and powerful. It creates more space in a session. So the more of those you're hitting when appropriate, the more you're tracking towards better direct communication as a competency. So active listening being measured, direct communication being measured, and then finally, client language, which is really the combination of active listening and direct communication. What percentage of every input in a session has a word or a phrase or a metaphor / illustration or some concept that the client has shared from this session or previous sessions? Measuring how many of those are happening is wonderful. And when you look at becoming a PCC coach, you want this to at least happen 50% of the time. But when you get to the MCC level, you want to be hitting client language at least 90% of the time. Almost every single thing the coach says needs to roll in some concept, phrase, word from the client into the next question or observation. So these are wonderful ways over time to begin drilling down to the higher levels of performance as a coach. But I want to be very clear, as you get started as a coach, it can feel a bit too much, and it would be too much to expect of yourself the best performance in each of these categories. Even the open questions versus closed questions, be okay with getting started in the field. But in my opinion, when a coach knows how to measure success over time, there's a meaningful confidence, not just based on successful sessions and clients who validated how the session went, but a true understanding of where I am in my performance and the ability to measure that over time. It tells a story of performance and growth. And honestly, this idea of measuring success is something we bake in to the coaching experience for our clients. If they want to grow in their exercise plan, we want to measure, we want them to measure how often they are heading to the gym and how successful they were. And we would create some sort of measurability around that goal or action step. And if they want to improve a certain behavior, we might look at cognitive behavioral concepts and ways of tracking, maybe with a daily thought record over time, how well they're doing. If we're expecting that kind of hard work from our clients, we need to do the hard work of measuring our performance as coaches. It's what our clients deserve from us. So get the practice done. Be okay with low performance to start, because that's a part of growing. It's all a part of getting on the bike, falling over, and getting better as you go. I hope this is helpful. Thank you for tuning in, and keep coaching.